Mr. Kiggundu Hamis, a born Ugandan. I was raised in Uganda. I've studied in Uganda, and I've attained all I have to date from Uganda. Many people would ask, why does a businessman all of a sudden, why has he decided to come out and write a book, Success and Failure Based on Reason and Reality? Despite the fact that many look at me as a successful Ugandan, it is really discomforting and it hurts to see that majority of Ugandans are still struggling and are economically not okay. A fact that needs a collective effort from all Ugandans to see that sincerely we can develop ourselves as individuals as well as our nation. The major problem I've come to realize in Uganda is that most Ugandans have a very poor mindset. They don't believe in themselves and they don't believe in success. So many of my friends have approached me from time and time and have asked me, how at such an early age, just at the age of 34, how have you managed to accumulate all this income? A question I cannot answer in a few statements or just a simple statement. That's one of the reasons as to why I decided to sit down and write this book. This book is not about me. I don't feel that special that others should read about me. But it's like a gift to my fellow countrymen and countrywomen so that they can start thinking progressively towards success. That is individual success and success of and development of our country at large. Sincerely, when you look at majority of Ugandans, especially their youth, they don't believe in themselves. They have this dependency syndrome. They believe, they look at becoming successful as a miracle. Anything, they have this tendency of a narrow thought that being successful is almost impossible. If I can do it, so can other Ugandans. Most people have attributed my success to government and politicians, which is completely wrong. I look at that as a very weak element, whereby someone is just trying to justify his poor status and gain comfort in being a failure, which is totally wrong. I urge all my fellow Ugandans that it is possible, and yes, we can do it. All of us can be successful. Another reason as to why I've written this book, it is useless in most cases if you have some little bit of knowledge towards success and you don't share. So I saw it reasonable and prudent to me that I should share, first of all, my success story with my fellow Ugandans, and equally give an idea on how I think someone can indeed change their mindset towards success instead of failure. This book has got approximately 16 chapters, but all these chapters are from my personal experience. This is a personal opinion. It may be a fact or not a fact depending on the reasoning capacity of the reader. I urge all Ugandans to find time. I know we are poor book readers, to find time and read this book. In Uganda, I haven't seen any Ugandans come out to write books that are Ugandan-based. Most societies have got different prevailing circumstances. Circumstances in outside countries are not the same circumstances in Uganda. I've attained my wealth in Uganda, so I know what it takes to become successful in Uganda. Though, on the other hand, how do I define success? I define success as fulfillment of an obligation with no due regard to emotions or desires, based on specifically reason and reality. That is looking at things from a realistic perspective as you say them, rather than working on presumptions. Most Ugandans have a tendency of saying, if so and so is rich, he must be getting money from politicians, he must be getting money from... But if Ham is a young man that has managed to do something reasonable, why can't you approach him and ask him, my fellow young Ugandan, how have you indeed done this? How have you become successful? People hate successful people passionately, and I don't know why. Actually, you can't achieve something you hate that much. People look at me like a young, successful man, but a fact I don't agree with. Because when you look at me, I started working when I was 19 years old. That is when I was in my university. I'm now 34, meaning I've been working for the last 15 years. That is not a short period of time, especially if 15 years of doing the right thing. So, it is my advice to all Ugandans, especially the youth and the young generation, that sincerely let us start believing in ourselves and let us start thinking progressively towards success. Instead of fighting people that have come up, to develop our country. Just like of recent, I happened to have evicted people from Backyard Market. It was too expensive and very difficult due to the mindsets of Ugandans. Had they had a productive mindset, that would have been a smooth transition from where they were to the new buildings that I've put up. Now all of them are comfortably working in this new good environment, and they are paying government taxes. So I believe if we can have more of what I've done here, Uganda shall develop. When I go back to the point of success in my chapter, which is chapter 23, you'll find that I've divided success into primary success and secondary success. I've limited primary success to success of growing up into a woman or a man, success of having achieved your education certificate, success of having gotten married and maybe started a family, which anyone almost can attain. But my entire focus as a businessman, because it's business that I do and it's business that I know, my focus is on that desire for someone to make a difference in their life, a desire for someone to attain riches and wealth. Where do you start? What is the starting point? So many Ugandans are stuck. They don't know even where to start. Where does someone start? You tell them it's capital, he will still ask you, what do you mean by capital? Where can we get this capital from? When they look at me, they will say, their fathers were rich, they gave them money. No. When you look at the family tree, of my success, you find that my father was born deep down in a village in Masaka called Rukedede. He managed to move from Rukedede to a bigger town called Karungu. From Karungu, he moved to Masaka. From Masaka, he then came to Kampala. Most of you have been born here in Kampala. My father didn't have the education that he has given me. So all these contribute to my... But he challenged me the moment he brought us right from down deep into the village up to here. He has educated us, despite the fact that he didn't attain all that level of education like I have today. So he gave me a challenge. That's one of the driving factors that are driving me focus. If my father did all this for me, I shouldn't step on the surface as well. I should do better than him. That is why you find I've gone as far as investing in the States, trading as Ham International UK Limited. I've got properties in the States. I've got properties in the UK. Most of you have been in Manchester. I've got a very huge building in Manchester. Trading as Ham International UK Limited. The sky is the limit, but it all goes back to reason. Everyone has got a brain. And I feel it is your responsibility to exploit and explore that brain, to start thinking progressively towards success, not failure. There is a very big difference between knowledge and being wise. I've come to realize that most Ugandans are knowledgeable about all the best factors in life. He knows the most expensive countries, the richest countries, the most expensive cars, the best houses in the world. So they are so knowledgeable. But a wise person is he who can apply the little knowledge he has productively towards success. Most Ugandans don't have that. So, someone just posted a cover of this book on Facebook. But when you look at the comments people have come up with, it is very discomforting indeed. It shows that Ugandans don't believe in themselves. How can you attain something that you don't believe in? With success, one of the key factors, you have to believe in it first. Failures are in most cases weak believers. There are so many factors of failures, factors that have limited most Ugandans from becoming successful. A fact that they lack the ability to draw projections from a realistic perspective, to draw a strategy, to draw a plan, to have the focus on something until it materializes or it bears fruits. They are so inconsistent, they are impatient. All these are factors that are needed, and they are fully explained within this book. I've gone as far as looking at other fundamental factors like I've defined poverty in this book, but that is in accordance with my own personal opinion. What is poverty? I've defined poverty as a temporary state where someone has nothing, has little, or not enough yet. But whereas a permanent state of poverty equals to failure. But in most cases, failure is 95% attached to the brain. One is inability to think progressively towards success. Poverty, being poor, that is a temporary state. We've all come out of poverty. My father wasn't born rich, like most claim. We have all been there. But you have to believe that it is simply a temporary state. Someone can simply be poor by birth. We are born to a poor family. But the moment you grow up and you grow out of that family, the decision is yours to either become successful, to aim for success, or stay poor. Someone can be poor by belonging, whereby the prevailing circumstances are not enough to facilitate your development, economic, political, and social factors are not welcoming for you to get out of poverty. But that is a temporary state, which simply like I'm a rich person today, you can look at me like a rich person, but I can drop from rich to rags. That's if I stop attaching reason to whatever I do. So I want, first of all, my fellow young Ugandans to start believing in themselves and to believe they can make it. Ugandans hate success so passionately. They would even go as far as telling a lie, simply to keep their hearts at peace. They would say that property is not his, he's working for government, he's working for politicians, something that is very wrong. I would rather have you come ask Ham, at such a tender age, how have you made it, my brother? And me, and I'm open. Actually, that's one of the reasons I've written this book. To pass information and knowledge to my fellow Ugandans and to see if they can use it to their advantage, to start thinking progressively towards success, but not failure. It is indeed discomforting to see, even if successful, to see that most Ugandans are failures and are poor people. It is hurting when we travel across borders. We are not judged by the amounts of money on our bank accounts. No. We are not judged by our individual status. We are judged by our countries of origin and the kind of passports we hold. Despite the fact that I employ whites in the UK, disrespect me due to my origin. So, I would rather believe that let all the rich people out there, let us work towards development of our country rather than individual development. The other factors I've talked about, like employment. Employment is a very limiting factor to most of the young people. You see, when you look at employment, we the employers, we usually pay a salary that is limited just to survival. When you look at all your salaries, even you the media people, you'll find that in most cases, your salary is within the limits of your expenses. Income, salary is always equal to expense. Even if I decided to promote you to a manager and increase your salary maybe from 1 million to 2 million, you'll find that I would expect you to live up to the standard of your status. If you didn't have a car, you'll have to buy a car. If you used to live in a neighborhood, the poor neighborhood, you'll have to move to a better neighborhood. So at the end of the day, you are simply surviving. I look at employment as something that should be temporary, for a given period of time, only to accumulate enough income to move into a private business. And when you look at day-to-day prevailing circumstances, you find that circumstances change and prices of all day-to-day things we use go up. But your salaries don't move up in accordance with your salaries, in accordance with your salaries. So, at the end of the day, you are simply surviving. A person should have a plan and a projection to move out of employment. And when you stay so long in employment, you get this dependency syndrome, whereby your job becomes your father and your mother. Without it, you can't survive. Yet at a given point in time, I would believe that anyone past the age of 35, employment should be from approximately 25 to at least a maximum of 35. By the age of 35, someone must have started his own private business towards success, not merely survival. In life, we desire to live, not survive. You can comfortably feed on beans and you won't die, but it wouldn't hurt to feed on meat too. So we desire to live, not to simply survive. That's the difference. And maybe if we promote individual development in the long run, as an end result, our country will develop too, because people will have changed their mindset. Another point I talked about in this book briefly was education. When you look at education systems of most societies, I divided it into two. That is the formal education and informal education. Formal education is education got from systems. Like you see curriculums, like you see courses and all that. The essence of an education system is to prepare the students for challenges in the world. But the reality is, God created man self-contained. The strongest weapon against any challenge in life is one's reasoning capacity. And that is attached to nature in most cases. When you look at our education systems, in most cases they are theoretical. And these need to be updated from time to time due to changing prevailing circumstances. Because if you are giving someone an outdated education system, then you won't be ready to face the current challenges today. So an education system should always be updated from time to time. Otherwise, bringing out a person from a person being qualified from an outdated education system is simply like sending soldiers to a war with guns but without bullets. So, yet education, if properly managed, it can be a very fundamental factor in development of a nation like Uganda. I also happen to have talked about one of our biggest problems we're having in Uganda today. That is the difference between dealers and we businessmen. The difference is that we businessmen, we do what we call genuine business the way we do it. Dealers, we are formal and informal dealers. Formal dealers are more like insurance brokers, real estate brokers, and forex, stock exchange brokers. The informal dealers, you will find that these are the ones that survive financially by outsmarting others. Actually, they are financial criminals. In most cases, they present a business proposal that looks so promising from the surface, but deep inside, when it's a scam and a con, before you realize that it was actually a con, they've already run off your money. And at times they are too good that you may not even stand to have enough evidence to put a claim in court. This syndrome of dealers has really deteriorated the character and minds of our young generation. We have all these young people in school thinking about fast money. Money is supposed to be a gradual system, one step at a time. I've told you I've been working for the last 15 years. But dealers believe in fast money, deal money. And you see, once they get this deal money, they spend it recklessly, trying to prove or to fit within lives of the rich. A rich person doesn't have to prove himself rich, because rich is what he is. A dealer has to spend extravagantly on all issues, throw around money for him to show the public that sincerely is well off. And on the other issue too, at the same time, he has to spend extravagantly, so that this is one of the mechanisms they use to attract other people with money, so that they can take money from them. I've seen what is happening with foreign dealers in most cases. Once the money is finally out, it is very discomforting and very sad. These boys end up with boys and girls end up with completely nothing. They end up struggling. You know, it is like, it is like trying, I once said, it is like getting power from a transformer and trying to bring it a three-phase voltage. You try to bring it into the house using these 2mm wires. Definitely it will burn. You have to look for wire that has that ability to hold that current. In most cases, money in large volumes with inability to manage it is poisonous to the young minds. That is why they end up completely burnt out. And it is very unfortunate that in most cases, once this money is used up, they would be called friends, all start making fun of them. And in most cases, they even have to move out of their societies and wander out there, because they can no longer survive within these societies. What happens to foreign dealers is... So I encourage all our young generation, please stop thinking about fast money. Life is a gradual process. Simply like once a child is born, it will grow, it will walk, and finally run. If you try to run before crawling, you are bound to fall. So I encourage all the young generation, sincerely, stop believing in deal money and fast money. That is one of the reasons I've written this book. I also tried briefly to give a difference between the rich and the poor, or what is being rich, what is being poor, what is being wealthy. I can comfortably tell you that at this particular moment I'm a rich man, but I'm working towards becoming a wealthy man. A rich person is one with a lot of valuable possessions and assets, just like I do. But we equally have a lot of liabilities. A wealthy person is a person who has got a lot, all that I have, but with no liability at all. If a rich person can remove liabilities from his assets, then he becomes a wealthy person. Riches can be measured from the amount of assets you own. Wealth is measured from time. How long can you survive without working? That's the difference. Rich people create jobs, wealthy people create systems. Wealthy people deposit money in banks as fixed deposits for the rich to borrow and start businesses. Actually, to some extent, the rich work for the wealthy. Just like on the other part of the coin, poor people in large numbers, because they're afraid of taking risks and challenges, they save their money with banks in small quantities, but then the rich person goes, gets it from banks and borrows it in collective amounts to start employment. Rich people in most cases use poor people's money to actually start investment because they look at it as capital, whereas the poor people look at it as savings. So that is the difference between rich, poor, and wealthy. So I'm also working towards becoming wealthy. So at this particular moment I can comfortably say I am a rich man. Maybe if you have some questions for me. When it comes to agro-processing and additional value, it is one of the businesses I'm moving in at a large scale. I can comfortably tell you that I'm going to risk whatever I've got into agro-processing and additional value, just for one reason. All I've done in the past was for individual success. I want to do something that not only grows my economic empire, but equally creates a positive change in my society. When I look at Uganda today, I was telling you from an individual point of view that a person should use his reasoning capacity to draw projections and plans. You should, self-identification. You should find your strength and weakness and build on that to draw projection to see a way you can move forward towards success through thinking progressively. The same applies to Uganda as a nation. When I look at Uganda today, our point of strength is actually the good fertile soils, the good climate, and young energetic generation, a young energetic population. When you put these three together, through agro-processing and additional value, we can change the dynamics of this country. Because currently, we are 42 million people in Uganda. Only 1 million people are paying taxes. We have a very strong limited tax base. There is no way we can have less than 1 million paying taxes and all the rest are looking at depending on only 1 million. It is impossible. There is no way you can grow as a country in most cases. So, if you can, when you talk to most Ugandans, their entire focus is always in Kampala. To me, this is the starting point. Nachivubo and all the assets I've got. This is the starting point for me. Where I'm aiming to really make it in life is agro-process and additional value. You find that it is only 7 million people that are in towns, meaning that 85% of all Ugandans are in villages. And they have fertile soils. If they can tilt this land and have produce, then some of us will go into additional value. We shall put up silos. We shall put up industries and factories to process these things. We shall look, together with the government, we can look for the international market and regional market. In fact, we can even start with the domestic market and we promote what we call import substitution. You'll find that we are a nation that is so dependent on imports rather than exports. Everything we are using is imported from outside. So, sincerely, if we can do import substitution and we start producing majority of these things from here, we would have cut on the amount of money that is leaving our country and maybe we shall stabilize even our currency. Then we shall equally focus on the regional market when you look at the neighboring countries as well as the international market. If we can get at least half, 15 million to 20 million of the Ugandan population at least having an income, how many revenue officers have you seen in your villages? None. Then that means we shall have widened. We shall have widened the tax base rather than frustrating the already existing small taxpayers, because they also finally collapse. Yendowooza eyo gye twagala okujja ki mbavubuka bannaffe okulaba nga badda mu mbeera erowooza mu kulaakulana. Bannange nze bannayuganda bannange ne bavuka bannange nti ebintu bino omulaba mbikoze nammwe musobola obikola. Zino sente zennyina si za gavumenti, si za muntu, sente zange nzize ngatta ki ngatte. Just because I don't take pride in what I have, nze senyumiriza mu kye nnyina lwansonga ntuna kyanakola ki sisannafuna kyoba tojja kunsanga mbavuga kanyuga sente kola kya kuba it is not me. I believe in working forward. Sikudda katono koyina n'otandika kakulu nubeera nga oli kwaku n'okafuula ekyekyo. Era wafunye sente baalize ne beebuuza ku bantu abakola emirimu kinnoomu ngaffe ne tubalaga engeri gy'osobola okuinvestinga sente ate n'oyimirizaawo obugagga obw'olubeerera ddaana okubanga mulowooleza mu kubeera nga mukanyuga sente buli ssaawa. Ekintu ekyo kikyamu era nkivumirira nnyo.